The holding cell hummed with the soft blue glow of containment fields as Commander Zixthor approached the newest prisoner. Another human, caught smuggling contraband through the outer rim territories. Nothing unusual about that. Humans had earned quite the reputation as scavengers and traders in the decades since their kind had ventured beyond their home system. Standard processing, Zixthor chittered to his subordinate, his mandibles clicking with boredom. DNA scan for the criminal database, biometric registration, then off to processing. The human sat quietly on the bench, watching them with those peculiar forward-facing eyes. Predator eyes, some species called them, though Zixthor had never understood the fear. Humans were weak, soft-bodied creatures who had barely mastered faster-than-light travel. They possessed no natural armor, no venom, no extraordinary strength. They were simply ordinary. Officer Krillnax activated the scanning array, and a pale green beam washed over the prisoner. The human didn't flinch, didn't protest. Most species squirmed under the molecular scanners, but humans always seemed oddly calm during processing. Perhaps their short lifespans made them fatalistic. The scanner beeped its completion, and Krillnax turned to input the data into the Galactic Criminal Database, a repository spanning 15,000 years of recorded civilization across 800 species. Then the alarm started. Not the shrill warning of a containment breach or the rhythmic pulse of a medical emergency, but something Zixthor had never heard in his 40 cycles of service. A deep, resonant tone that seemed to vibrate through the very structure of the station. Red holographic text materialized in the air, rotating slowly, pulsing with each sound wave. Creator species detected genetic markers, Alpha-class civilization security protocol. Omega initiated. Zixthor's 3 hearts began beating in an erratic pattern. That's impossible. Run it again. Krillnax's tentacles trembled as she worked the controls. Commander, the system is locked. I can't override it. It's sending alerts to the High Council, to the archivists, to... She paused, her skin flushing pale. To everyone. The human finally spoke, his voice carrying a trace of amusement. I tried to tell you folks at intake that you might want to call someone with more authority. Silence, Zixthor commanded, though his voice cracked slightly. Creator species. The term belonged to ancient mythology, to the dust-covered historical records that most considered legend. The progenitors, the architects, the ones who had supposedly seeded life across the galaxy millions of years ago, then vanished without a trace. It was a story told to juveniles, a fairy tale to explain the impossible statistical coincidence of so many species evolving along similar biological pathways despite being separated by thousands of light years. The human stood up slowly and, despite the containment field, despite the weapons trained on him, Zixthor found himself taking an involuntary step backward. You want to know the funny thing? The human said, leaning against the wall. We didn't know either. Not until about 6 months ago when one of our xenoarchaeologists decoded a data cache on Epsilon Nera. Turned out our junk DNA, the 98% of our genetic code we thought was evolutionary garbage, it's not junk at all. It's a seed bank. A template. The doors to the detention center burst open and High Archivist Telnamora swept in, her robes billowing. Behind her came a full security detachment and 3 members of the Science Council. The archivist's eyes, all 6 of them, fixed on the human with an intensity that bordered on religious fervor. Is it confirmed? She demanded. Krillnax nodded mutely, pointing to the still rotating holographic warning. Telnamora approached the containment field slowly, as one might approach a deity made flesh. The genetic markers are unmistakable. The protein folding patterns, the base pair sequences in the non-coding regions, they match the fragments we've found in the ancient sites. The architects didn't vanish. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. They devolved. They stripped themselves of technology, of knowledge, and started over. Why? Zixthor heard himself ask. The human laughed, a short, bitter sound. According to the records we found, guilt. Apparently our ancestors got really good at creating life, at uplifting species, at playing God across the galaxy. Then, one of their client species, we don't know which, went extinct because of a mistake in their genetic modifications. So the architects made a choice. They encoded all their biological knowledge into their own DNA, set up automated systems to seed life throughout the galaxy using their genetic templates. Then they wiped their own civilization clean, sent themselves back to the Stone Age on a single world, Earth, to live out existence as just another species struggling to survive. But you're advancing again, Telnmora observed, rediscovering the old ways. Not intentionally. We're just stubborn, curious. We kept asking questions, kept pushing forward, kept exploring. The human's expression softened slightly. Look, I'm just a smuggler trying to make a living. I don't want to be anyone's messiah or genetic overlord. But if that data cache was telling the truth, then yeah. Every species in this galaxy carries a piece of human DNA, modified and adapted for different environments. You're all our children, in a weird, ancient, biological sense. The implications hung in the air like a supernova waiting to collapse. Every species, every civilization, every culture in the known galaxy, all of them branches on a tree whose roots went back to a single source, to humanity. Zixthor felt the foundations of his understanding crumbling. What happens now? The human shrugged. That's up to you folks. Me? I'd just like to pay my fine for the smuggling and get back to my ship. The past is the past. What matters is what we do going forward. High Archivist Telnmora was silent for a long moment. Then she gestured to Krillnax. Release him, and delete the smuggling charges. But the regulations, Zixthor protested, have just become irrelevant, Telnmora interrupted. Commander, the galaxy just learned that humanity isn't a young, unremarkable species stumbling through the cosmos. They're the origin point, the source code. She turned back to the human. Your people should choose ambassadors carefully in the coming days. Some will want to worship you, others will want to destroy you for disrupting their sense of cosmic order. The human stepped through the deactivated containment field, rubbing his wrists. Yeah, I figured. That's why I was trying to keep a low profile. He paused at the door, looking back at the assembled aliens. For what it's worth, I think the architects, our ancestors, made the right choice. Being a creator species sounds like a terrible burden. I'd rather just be human. As he walked out, Zixthor realized the truth in those words. The humans hadn't asked for this revelation. They'd simply been living their lives, making their way through the cosmos like everyone else. But the galaxy had changed in that moment, and nothing would ever be the same again.